Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. From Kargil, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi warns Pakistan. Evil intent of masters of terror will never succeed. President Draupadi Murmu, Prime Minister Modi lead the nation in commemorating Kargil Vijay Diwas. US Vice President Kamala Harris presses Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over Gaza humanitarian crisis. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar tells Chinese counterpart Wang Yi to ensure full respect for LAC during ASEAN meet. In sports, the Paris 2024 Olympics will officially flag off with a historic opening ceremony, 100 boats to carry over 10,000 athletes along the Seine River. India celebrates the 25th anniversary of the Kargil Vijay Diwas. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday paid homage to the Kargil war martyrs. Prime Minister laid a floral wreath at the Diwas War Memorial to pay tributes to the officers and soldiers of the armed forces who made the supreme sacrifice in service of the nation. On July 26, 1999, the Indian Army announced the successful culmination of Operation Vijay, declaring victory over Pakistan in the 1999 war. Prime Minister Modi also carried out the first blast of the Shinkun La Tunnel project virtually. The Shinkun La Tunnel project consists of a 4.1-kilometer long twin-tube tunnel which will be constructed at an altitude of around 15,800 feet on the Nimu-Padum-Darcha road to provide all-weather connectivity to Leh. Once completed, it will be the highest tunnel in the world. Shinkun La Tunnel will not only ensure swift and efficient movement of our armed forces and equipment, but also foster economic and social development in Ladakh. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid tributes to the Kargil war heroes on 25th anniversary of Kargil Vijay Diwas. Speaking on the occasion, Prime Minister Modi said that Kargil Vijay Diwas tells us that the sacrifices made for the nation are immortal.
कारगिल विजय दिवस हमें बताता है कि राष्ट्र के लिए दिए गए बलिदान अमर होते हैं। दिन, महीने, वर्ष, सदियां गुजरते हैं, सर्दियां भी गुजरती है, मौसम भी बदलते हैं, लेकिन राष्ट्र की रक्षा के लिए अपनी जान की बाजी लगाने वालों के नाम अमिट रहते हैं। ये देश हमारी सेना के पराक्रमी महानायकों का सदा सर्वदा ऋणी है। ये देश उनके प्रति कृतज्ञ है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi delivered a powerful message to Pakistan, saying it continues to rely on terrorism and it hasn't learned from its history.
पाकिस्तान ने अतीत में जितने भी दुष्प्रयास किए उसे मुंह की खानी पड़ी है, लेकिन पाकिस्तान ने अपने इतिहास से कुछ नहीं सीखा है। वो आतंकवाद के सहारे, प्रॉक्सी वॉर के सहारे अपने आप को प्रासंगिक बनाए रखने का प्रयास कर रहा है। लेकिन आज जब मैं उस जगह से बोल रहा हूं जहां आतंक के आकाओं को मेरी आवाज सीधे सुनाई पड़ रही है, मैं आतंकवाद के इन सरपरस्तों को कहना चाहता हूं कि उनके नापाक मंसूबे कभी कामयाब नहीं होंगे।
Paying tributes to Kargil war heroes, President of India Draupadi Murmu said that the Kargil Vijay Diwas is an occasion to pay tributes to the courage and extraordinary valor of the country's armed forces. In a social media post, President Murmu expressed hope that all countrymen will draw inspiration from their sacrifice and valor. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh paid heartfelt tributes to the courageous armed forces personnel who fought with exceptional bravery in the harsh conditions of Kargil in Ladakh during the war in 1999. The Defence Minister offered his tributes at the National War Memorial in Delhi. He remembered the indomitable spirit and courage of the brave soldiers who fought valiantly in the 1999 war. Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan and all ranks of the armed forces also joined in remembering the supreme sacrifice made by the brave hearts during the Kargil war. The country is celebrating the silver jubilee of Kargil Vijay Diwas. During the coverage of this war, Doordarshan not only stood on the line of the fire and did live coverage of the war, but also demolished Pakistan's propaganda and presented the Indian side strongly with evidence to the world. Let's take a look at this special report.
When we look back at the Kargil operation after 25 years, we can easily see that the conflict was first of all a reflection of the highest standards of the Indian Army, especially in a mountain warfare. The Kargil operation had once again proved that Indian soldiers can rise to any occasion against all odds. In June 1999, this operation also showed how Pakistan's psychological offensives had failed in the face of Indian Army's quick and daring counterattacks in what turned out to be an interdiction warfare instead of a regular all-out maneuver war. When Pakistan carried out a simultaneous media campaign about its so-called advantage from the mountain heights, Doordarshan News filed the first exclusive visual dispatches from the direct line of enemy fire and exposed Pakistani maneuvers to the world. Doordarshan News was the first to show features like the Tiger Hill, Peak of Tololing and Point 5410 along with trajectories of artillery fire from across enemy lines.
When the operation started, so the world press got to know about it, everybody got to know about it. And the Pakistani launched a psychological offensive, like it happened in 1962. And so the nation was under some kind of a pressure. The political establishment ought to be under pressure then. And that is the kind of advantage that the Pakistanis thought they would get away with. We started filming in the direct line of enemy fire. So what came out of that? What came out of that was that it was proved visually with television evidence that it was interdiction warfare. It was not maneuver warfare. Actually, to reach Tiger Hill, the peak of Tiger Hill, one would have to cross so many hills, hills, and then the peak. So we explained why, despite the advantage of aerial dominance, we would physically, the Indian Army would have to, the infantry, with artillery support, with air support, would have to physically go up and capture the peak and hoist the tricolor. And that's when the all-round military ability of the Indian soldier counts.
This also brought the first televised evidence that the Indian forces were actually inching forward in what had to be time-consuming interdiction operation to save human lives in Kargil sector. Bureau Report, DD India.
Both houses of the Indian Parliament, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, reconvened on day 5th of the Parliament budget session and paid tributes to Kargil war heroes as India marks 25th anniversary. Members of Parliament observed silence for soldiers who died in the line of duty in the 1999 Kargil war. The discussion on the Union Budget 2024-25 continued in two houses of Parliament. Congress MP Gaurav Gogoi gave an adjournment motion notice in Lok Sabha, urging the Lok Sabha to prioritize the conduct of the national census and establish a clear timeline for its completion. Fridays are for MPs to bring in bills. Ravi Kishan, Rajiv Pratap Rudi, Shashi Tharoor, D. Ravi Kumar and Chandrasekhar Azad are expected to introduce private members' bills. India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is leading the Indian delegation at the 4th annual meeting of Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation Security Chiefs being held in Naypyidaw on Friday. He met with the Myanmar NSA Admiral Moy Ong on Thursday and BIMSTEC security chiefs, fostering bilateral ties with their counterparts. Shekhar Kapoor has been appointed as the 55th International Film Festival's director. The IFFI is set to reach new heights with the appointment of the legendary filmmaker Shekhar Kapoor as its festival director. Known for his masterful storytelling and visionary direction, Kapoor's involvement promises to transform the 55th edition of IFFI into a cinematic extravaganza like never before. The 55th IFFI is set to be a landmark event embodying the spirit of creativity, innovation and cultural exchange that defines the world of cinema. As anticipation builds, the film community and audience worldwide eagerly await the cinematic extravaganza. In weather updates across India, incessant rainfall over the last 24 hours wreaked havoc in several parts of the western Indian state of Maharashtra. The Met Department issued red alert for Pune, Mumbai, Palghar, Thane and Raigad. Considering the warning issued, all schools and colleges falling under BMC have been declared a holiday for Friday. In fact, have declared a holiday on Friday. Additionally, the BMC has also requested citizens to avoid stepping out if not necessary and has asked them to cooperate. Also, in view of heavy rains, teams of NDRF and SDRF have been deployed and army and airlifting teams have also been kept on alert. You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break. But after the break, Typhoon Gemi makes its landfall in Fujian province, wreaking havoc in southeastern China.
As the world gears up for the biggest sporting extravaganza, Olympics 2024, we at DD India are all set to bring you reports, reactions and all the latest action from Ground Zero. Watch DD India's super exclusive show, Cheer for Bharat. Only on DD India, 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT. Get ready to cheer for Indian athletes at the Paris Olympics 2024.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live. Let's continue getting you more updates. The ASEAN-India Foreign Ministers meeting is underway in Vientiane on Friday. The meeting of the foreign ministers from Association of Southeast Asian Nations will be followed by 2 summits in Laos on Saturday, set to address key global issues that will be attended by officials from India, United States, European Union, Japan, China, Russia and more. In his opening remarks at the opening session of the meeting, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said, for India, ASEAN is the cornerstone of this Act East policy and the Indo-Pacific vision that was thereafter built on it.
The priority that India attaches to ASEAN and AS platforms is evident from Prime Minister Modi visiting Jakarta last year on the very eve of our own G20 summit. He had announced a 12-point plan that has been largely acted upon. For India, ASEAN is the cornerstone of its Act East policy and the Indo-Pacific vision that was thereafter built on it. For us, political, economic and security cooperation with ASEAN is of the utmost priority. So too are people-to-people linkages that we are constantly seeking to expand. I welcome Minister Benedito Freitas of Timor-Leste as an observer in this meeting as well. Last year, Prime Minister Modi announced that we will open an embassy in Delhi. We are proceeding to do so very shortly and in fact will be undertaking high-level visits there as well. I extend my deepest appreciation to all of you for strengthening ASEAN-India relations through substantive and tangible cooperation identified under the ASEAN-India Plan of Action and its annex. I look forward to our discussions today. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair and Excellencies.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on Thursday on the sidelines of the ASEAN-related foreign ministers' meeting. Their talks were focused on finding an early resolution of the remaining issues along the line of actual control to stabilize and rebuild bilateral relations. Both the leaders also agreed on the need to work with purpose and urgency to achieve complete disengagement at the earliest. Dr. S. Jaishankar emphasized on the need to ensure full respect for line of actual control and past agreements to stabilize the bilateral ties. He also stressed on the importance of 3 mutuals, that is mutual respect, mutual interest and mutual sensitivity to the bilateral ties. India and China will hold an early meeting of the working mechanism on consultation and coordination on India-China border affairs to take the discussions forward. US President Joe Biden has met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House, the first meeting in Washington during Biden's presidency. They discussed the ceasefire deal with Hamas, which, although proposed weeks ago, has not been agreed upon, and the release of dozens of hostages also still being held by Hamas. It all comes a day after Netanyahu's controversial address at Congress, in fact, which saw thousands of protests on the streets outside the US Capitol. DD India's Nick Harper gets us more from Washington.
Multiple meetings for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu here in Washington, the first with President Joe Biden. The two men have known each other for about 40 years, something that Netanyahu reflected on during their Oval Office meeting, saying that Biden had also known every Israeli Prime Minister for the last 50 years. However, they discussed weightier issues in their private meeting, including that ceasefire deal. It was proposed a couple of months ago, but has still not come to fruition. And that includes the release of hostages still being held by Hamas in Gaza. Of course, we've seen something of a rift grow between the two leaders in the last 9 months since this conflict began. Biden has been pushing harder against Netanyahu for Israel to reduce its military offensive, to try and ensure that civilians are not caught up in the crossfire. But we have seen that death toll mount. Now, with Biden unfettered by the need to mount a re-election campaign and knowing that he only has another 6 months in office, there is some thinking that he will be pushing much harder now to try and stop the conflict, but also make sure that Israel reduces what it's doing there, its offensive, its military hardware, the large-scale bombs that it's using in largely populated, densely populated civilian areas. Also here in Washington, the Prime Minister met with Kamala Harris, the Vice President, but also the presumptive Democratic Party nominee. She has said in the past that she would continue that US commitment of support to Israel, including military assistance. But there is speculation that if she becomes president, she will push harder on the humanitarian side of things to ensure that Palestinian civilians are helped by Israel rather than being caught up in the conflict.
I will always ensure that Israel is able to defend itself, including from Iran and Iran-backed militias such as Hamas and Hezbollah. I have had an unwavering commitment to the existence of the State of Israel, to its security, and to the people of Israel. And I will not be silent. Thanks to the leadership of our President Joe Biden, there is a deal on the table for a ceasefire and a hostage deal.
On Friday, the Prime Minister heads to Florida to meet with Donald Trump, someone that he knows from Donald Trump's past presidency. Indeed, the last time that Netanyahu was here in the United States was during the Trump administration about 4 years ago. Those two men have something of a closer bond than we've seen between Biden and Netanyahu. Netanyahu, I guess, hedging his bets during the course of this trip, meeting with the two people, Harris and Trump, one of which will become the president after November's election. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on countries to address the urgency of the extreme heat epidemic fueled by climate change, days after the world registered its hottest day on record. The UN called on governments to not only tamp down fossil fuel emissions, but to bolster protection for the most vulnerable, including the elderly, pregnant women and children, and step up safeguards for workers. Guterres also called for governments to heat-proof their economies, critical sectors such as healthcare and the built environment. This is the first time the UN has put out a global call for action on extreme heat.
Climate action also requires finance action. And that includes countries coming together for a strong finance outcome from COP29, progress on innovative sources of finance, drastically boosting the leading capacity of multilateral development banks to help developing countries tackle the climate crisis, and wealthier countries making good on all their climate finance commitments. The message is clear. The heat is on. Extreme heat is having an extreme impact on people and planet. The world must rise to the challenge of rising temperatures, and I thank you.
Typhoon Gemi made landfall in China's Fujian province. The southeastern China grappled from the severe typhoon that later spurred the authorities to halt train services and cancel many flights. A total of 15,033 highways were suspended, and some trains that passed through typhoon-affected areas in Fujian province were also cancelled. On to sports updates now. The Paris Olympics ceremony will take place on Friday on the Seine River. Athletes will be paraded on boats equipped with cameras for an up-close view. Olympic medalist PV Sindhu will be the flag bearer of the Indian contingent at the opening ceremony alongside ace table tennis player Achanta Sharath Kamal. It will be the third time the French capital hosts the Olympic Games after 1900 and 1924. India has sent a formidable contingent of 117 athletes, hoping to better its impressive medal haul of 7 from Tokyo 2020. Around 10,500 athletes will take part in the Olympic Games. A total of 329 medal events will be held, with 35 venues hosting the various events. On it, our correspondent Narayan Singh joins us from Paris. Narayan, India is sending 117 athletes to Paris, which is its largest ever Olympic contingent. How prepared do you see the Indian athletes are for the Olympics?
India has a large contingent of 117 athletes. It is the second largest contingent in the history of the Olympics. In Tokyo, the Indian contingent has 121 athletes, and in this edition of the Olympic Games, which is the 33rd edition, India will field 117 athletes here, and a lot of expectations are there from our athletes, considering the fact that in the recent past our athletes has performed exceptionally well in all the international events, and we are hoping that this time around they will better their record of the Tokyo Olympics, where they won 7 medals, and this time around there are chances that India can touch the double-digit figures at the Paris game. A lot will depend on how our athletic contingent fairs, because it is the largest squad. It has 29 track and field athletes, and we are hoping that apart from Neeraj Chopra, we know that Neeraj has an opportunity to create history here. He can defend his Tokyo Olympic gold at the Paris edition also, and Neeraj has won everything on plate. He has won World Championship, Diamond League, Olympic gold, so it has a chance, he has a chance to create history once again. And also Kishore Jena is also doing exceptionally well along with Neeraj Chopra. We saw in the Asian Games the duo has registered a 1-2 finish, and here again they can match the similar feat what they did in the Asian Games. And if you talk about shooting, it is the second largest contingent with 21 shooters, and it is a mix of, you can say that, youth and experience. Especially it has more youth players in the shooting squad, and the players like Manu Bhakar, Swift Kaur Samra, Asha Singh, they are very, very highly talented, and they can win medals for India here. And in the men's department also, Vijay Veer Singh Sidhu, Sandeep Singh are there. So we are hoping that the shooting can push the India's medal tally here and help India to touch the double-digit figure here at the Paris game. And if you talk about the wrestling, the young wrestlers are there, especially the Antim Pangal. In boxing also, we have chances that our boxer can do well here, but especially a lot of expectation are there from Neeraj Chopra in track and field, and we are hoping that he will repeat the feat of the Tokyo Olympics here.
All right, Narayan, so we wish our contingent all the best. With that, we end this conversation here. And also with that, we end this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the respective QR codes on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.